Hey, Sam.
Hi, how are you?
I am well. I'm excited to dive in with you today.
Oh, good. Can't wait.
You were surprised that we got you onto this podcast, eh?
I was actually. I was like, oh, don't know what I can bring, but sure, I'll come on there.
Oh, come on. You can bring a lot of value. How's the market in Tasmania? I don't know much about Tasmania, but I do know a lot of people are migrating there. So what's happening?
Yeah, so I think a lot of buyers are getting their confidence back now. I think for a month or so, people were a little bit worried where now it's back. A lot of people are still wanting to move here. So predominantly I'm dealing with, retirees coming from inner Sydney is like pretty much all my clients moving to the coast of Tasmania. So that's ideally what I'm dealing with at the moment. My investors have dropped off, but they're still there, but not as strong as what it was probably 6 to 12 months ago.
So interesting, right? Because, we were having a chat offline before we started this episode, and what I'm noticing across Australia is a lot of people who are very focused on owner rock are now doing investment like primarily. And it seems like it's fully switched for you.
Yeah, definitely. It's super interesting because I would say 90% of my clients for the first couple of years were investors. And because property management was my background, it was so easy for me to do. Where now I would say 80% are owner occupier, people moving down here. So whether they're renting it out for a couple of years first or moving straight down here, it's either one or it is their end goal to get here at some point.
Yeah, Tassie's beautiful.
Yeah, it is lovely. And I think COVID has really shown people that, they can work from anywhere and do anything. So, for example, I had a couple move here. He works in Sydney, but he worked out that he could just fly up once a fortnight for 2 nights. It's quicker for him to do that. And they can stay here and they have a better life with their kids. Like it's cheaper, living expenses, schooling expenses, all those sorts of things.
Yeah, makes sense. So the market's it's gone up a lot, would you say, in the last 2 years?
Yes, definitely. I think prices have increased significantly. And yeah, it's a bit of both really, like investors and also my investors are young couples that will never be able to afford to buy something, in the middle of Melbourne or Sydney. Then they've got something behind them. I think it makes them feel like they actually have something. They're not just paying rent, but they like that lifestyle living in an apartment, but they'll never be able to afford that $2 million price bracket, where here you could get a house on a 700 square metre block for 700,000.
Pretty good.
Yeah, the price. Yeah, I think people don't realise. Yeah, the pricing is pretty good. Yeah,
I remember I spent, 1.8 on a 2-bedroom apartment in Sydney at one stage.
I know the prices have definitely gone up. I think people think they could buy. I have people call me all the time like, we want to spend 200,000. Where 3 years ago you probably could get a unit for that, where you won't get anything under 400 now in a nice suburb anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you must have pretty thick skin. So you're a property manager for 8 years?
Yeah, 8 years property management, and I really liked it. I didn't know how I would going into kind of the sales role where it's not, you don't have your clients for a consistent point of time. It's very like a quick turnover. But no, I love it. Never look back, but I did enjoy property management. I think you either love it or you don't.
We had a property management division at my former company, Conhan. We had a large rent roll, and I remember a lot of my meetings with our head of PM, and it's just, dealing with a lot of problems.
Yeah.
You guys, I really admired the role of PMs and just people within those units because, you are troubleshooting issues, you are making tenants happy, landlords happy, and there's a lot going on, isn't there?
Yeah, you're pretty much the middle person, and I think sometimes it's a very thankless job. I think people don't realise how much you put into it unless you make this unseen scene to those clients. They only come to you if there's a problem. They don't see how you've troubleshooted and haven't told them. I think, they're paying you for a service, so you don't need to bother them unless there's a real big problem. So I guess sometimes, they feel like they only heard from you if something was wrong. So in this industry, people just love me all the time. It's very different, yeah.
What's the average management fee in Tasmania?
But about 10% plus GST. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that's huge.
I know, it is. And I think if you calculated what they were paying per week, though, so you approximate like average rent, if you compare that to something in Sydney, they're probably paying the same amount for a service, but the actual 10% seems like a lot compared to other states.
I understand. Yeah, your rents are a lot lower.
Yeah, yeah.
So it evens out.
Yeah, definitely.
That's interesting. Cool. So what prompted you to dive into the BA space? Because obviously, as a property manager, you know, sales skills, unless you're in BDM, like the sales skills aren't that important. Were you nervous moving into like a sales focused role?
I think I probably did it a very gentle way. So I was approached by someone that had the business before me. He tinkered along with it, worked on it as like a little side hustle, and he wanted to get back into sales. So he was looking to get rid of it. So at the time, a friend and I did purchase the business together, and we kind of did it on the side. So it wasn't too scary because I still had that full-time job to fall back on. But I think having some form of real estate background and those connections really did help me a lot. And then after 12 months, I just realised that I think this is what I wanted to do full time and really have a good go at it. So I bought my partner out at the time and did it full time. So I've been doing it full time for a bit over 12 months now. But I think the way I did it allowed me to not be too scared because I still had something else there going on.
That makes sense. But I mean, you would have bought your partner out at a good time.
Yeah, a good time. Yeah. Yes, I was very fortunate. So we bought it, started COVID. So it took a little while to get going. But then, yeah, when I bought it, just really took off. I think probably because I was putting more time into it as well, that I was very fortunate to have a really good first 12 months.
That's unreal. When did you join BAI? I forget.
I think I joined at the end of last year. So I feel like I'd been doing it a couple of months on my own and then I joined.
Okay, so you haven't been that long. Cool. Nice. So when you said earlier about the people who are moving from Sydney to Tassie, right? My question is, are they going there first on like a holiday and then going, hey, we love this place, let's live here? Or are they going there thinking, we may want to live here, and then they visit and then they go, yes? Like, what's that journey look like typically?
Yeah, so for most of them, they've come down for, one or some people might be just one visit and they've fallen in love with the place, or, they've come down every year for the last 10 years. And so they've decided that they want to retire down here. And, so that's predominantly how they work it. So I never have anyone that hasn't come here, or doesn't know the area they want to buy in. They normally go home and then think about it, or they call me when they're here. And then we work together from there. But, yeah, it's mostly retirees or they're about to retire. And they come here and they want like at least an acre near the water, is really what I deal with, yeah.
That's beautiful. Oh, so a lot of the people that their requirements are land primarily?
Yeah. So they want at least an acre, probably no more than 2.
Yeah,
Which
nice.
is
Okay.
a lot. And some of them are coming from an apartment. It's like, oh my goodness.
It's a big move, I think, like moving from, for example, like the city of Sydney to Tassie onto like, an acre or two.
Yeah, and I've always say to them, like, have you come in like the middle of June or July? Because it does get quite cold here and the days are really short. So, when daylight savings, it gets dark here at 5 and it is, you wake up to a thick frost. Like it isn't the most, I think that would be the most miserable time to be here. So you probably want to test that out. So a lot of them do come in winter. So like if we can deal with this, we can, cope with the rest. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Are you doing property management for your investor clients?
No, I just refer actually. I just decided to focus on this for quite some time. I feel like once you start dabbling in that again, it does take up a lot of time. I needed a break.
I'm sure. Do you think you'll get into it down the track or?
It's not at this stage. No, I'm very fortunate that I worked in industry for so long that I can refer to people that I would happily have manage my properties, and I know that they're being taken care of. And we've got such a smooth transition from me to them that, it's really nice for my clients. Just an extra like service that we've added in for them.
Yeah, nice. What's the local market like in respect to appreciating the value of buyer's agents? Do you feel like locals are starting to warm up to it, or is it mainly just you're dealing with interstate, etc.?
Yeah, so it's still a lot of interstate. I probably do with one local client a month, which is better than, I have had in the past. So it's really nice. Some agents are still like a bit funny about it, but the agents that I deal with a lot refer to me a lot now. So, they can see the benefit of what I bring to them as well as the clients, which is really nice because if they have a client that keeps missing out, they'll be like, you need to speak to Sam. And they'll call me and they're like, they just don't know what they're doing. You need to help them. So I'll just guide them with the process because I guess every state has its own legislation and our state is very hard to, I think, understand unless you've done your research or in the market because we don't have auctions. There's not a lot of negotiating that happens. So if there's more than one offer presented to the vendor, the client has to sign something to say this is their best and final offer because the vendor may not come back to them. So there's no negotiating. So they kind of have to go in with their best offer. But where a lot of people think they'll come back to them, but they won't a lot of the time.
What are your thoughts on that process, like compared to other states that you are aware of?
I think it's very difficult. I think that's where they get good pricing, especially with, when we're going through like our boom, people were just desperate. So they were going ridiculously high to hope to get something. I feel like there could be a lot more transparency.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I've never bought there myself, but I'm just thinking, like, do you think if there was more transparency and the process was slightly different, they could get actually higher prices?
Possibly. They could probably get more out of their clients or out of the buyers, definitely. Because I know my clients, even how much I can sometimes explain it to them, I think sometimes I don't actually understand. Like, they're not going to come back to us. And I had a client miss out last week on something and she's like, oh, but we could have gone higher. And I was like, yeah, but this is like, that was it. We've got no other opportunity now. So I think sometimes, yeah, they could get more out of the client, definitely.
When you explain the process, let's say to a Sydney buyer who's used to a completely different negotiation journey, like, are they, or how do they feel about it?
I think they're a bit in shock that's how it's done. But I think it also helps me be able to sell my service to how I can help them because I think that's where they need the help the most. And because you don't get a lot of protection here as a buyer either. They call us a buyer's beware state because vendors don't have to provide any council documents, nothing. You don't get anything. So you can add in clauses, but then, it does weaken your offer a lot.
Yeah, I definitely see a lot of value in, obviously, if you've got that, like that reputation of the, buyers beware, like you've got to really know what you're doing, I guess, when you're entering into that territory as a buyer.
Well, yeah, I guess, just if a house had an extension and it never went through council, there's no way they can find out about that. And agents will tell them that's just the way it is, but it's not really. Like, you can add in things to get that information if you need to be. But, of course, agents just want the quickest, go unconditional as quickly as possible.
Yep, after the quick buck. So looking at Tassie, like, how many buyers agents are there?
I don't really know. Like, I know there's maybe two in Hobart that I'm aware of. I know, like, people have mentioned that there's people doing it, but, like, I can never find, I don't have websites or not on social media, so I think they might just do it as like a little side thing. But I'm predominantly I'm in the north of the state, so I know it's just me here that I'm aware of. But yeah, I know at least 2 women in Hobart, so not many.
It's great for you.
Yeah, it is good for me. And I think, yeah, and with the name that we have, it does really help with Google searches and things like that.
Yeah, your website looks awesome. Really, it's really elegant, really nice. Like, it's, I think it's got a really good feel to it.
Thank you. I try and sell, a thing that I try and do is try and sell like Tassie as a place. So that's what I do on my social media, different places you can go and do and all that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's smart. Yeah, I mean, expanding on what I just said, I guess your brand looks really nice. And I think visually it looks, aesthetically, it's great. So well done. So going back to what you said earlier about real estate agents, right? I know what it's like when I started in Sydney and when I moved into Brisbane and even Melbourne, where there was a lot of agent resistance. It's like they thought, like, firstly, they think they own all the buyers for some reason. And then secondly, they sometimes initially, like, they see us as a threat when we get going. And it takes them a while to warm up, and some don't warm up. Like, what's your experience been overall in Tassie?
Some are okay. I think in Launceston, I'm very lucky that I had worked in the industry for quite some time, so I do know a few agents. So I think, but in other areas, like if I have to go somewhere else for a client, can be difficult. And they're like, "So do we pay you?" And I was like, "No, you don't. Don't pay me." They can be a bit standoffish, and I think they try to make the outcome more difficult than it needs to be. I think sometimes I need to realize that I'm here. We both want the same outcome at the end of the day. So we just need to work together. But yes, there is a lot of resistance, definitely.
Yeah. And have you had any clients who have like relocated to Tassie, bought like their, a property through you? And then obviously not to do with you in terms of the purchase, but have you heard that they've regretted moving?
No, not yet. Touch wood, I haven't heard anything. I think it'd be different if they were moving here and hadn't been here before. But no one that I'm aware of. Well, I haven't seen a purchase that I've done that's gone back on the market yet.
No, the reason I was asking is because I bought something in, we bought an investment in Byron recently. And when we were going through that process, because I'm from Sydney originally, so like, not used to big land. Like we got 2.5 hectares, which is a lot. But what I was hearing from the agents constantly in Byron was so many people from Sydney and Melbourne especially had gone to Byron, moved from like that apartment or that small terrace or whatever, or even house that's not even, and bought all this land. And then it's on the market again 12 months later because they can't maintain it. B, it's just like they just made the wrong choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think sometimes I do see, like, I'm in a couple of Facebook groups of people like moving here, and I do see that they buy in these areas and they've never been here before and they're very isolated. And that concerns me for them because I think, Tassie's pretty small anyway, but there are sections that is quite isolated. You're like 3-hour drive from the next town kind of thing. So I do worry that they're not going to like it. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been to Tassie once. It's aesthetically so beautiful.
Yes, it is lovely. And I think it's just getting more and more popular, to be honest. Yeah.
And so do you see that trend continuing, like people moving from, Sydney, Melbourne or wherever, like post-COVID over the next, 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
I think so. Like it's not even just, I say like older people moving down to retire. I've got people that are got young families that, financially they're just like, we can get a house on a block, our kids can go to a really good school and they don't have the price tag of what they would have in, in Melbourne or Sydney. So I think, yeah, it's nice that younger people are coming down here and it's kind of changing the outlook. I think people used to look down on Tasmania really, but now I think it's really changed in probably the last 4 years.
Yeah. I think a lot of these places that were just holiday destinations or coastal places or even regional that was like a treat to go to on a holiday is now becoming more of the norm because people, due to their, work situations, are able to now, relocate. I think it's just becoming more acceptable now for people to live outside of a city.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when, a lot of people in lockdown in COVID, we had 2 years and we just lived normally. Like we didn't really understand the depth of what was happening everywhere else because we just shut our borders and no one could come in and we all just lived a very normal life. So I think that just shows people, we're very fortunate here.
Yeah, you guys did. It seemed like you moved through it very, very, very smoothly. What happens in respect to off-market properties? Is there a lot of off-markets going on, a lot of pre-markets? Like how's it working in regards to stock levels there?
Yeah, so it's definitely becoming more of an opportunity. I think, when I was saying before, when things were going to like a multiple offer, agents were pricing things, and then they were going ridiculous amount higher. So they would say to client, we should put on the market because you might get more than what they're happy to pay you off market. And mind you, agents were struggling to get listings, so they wanted to show their competitors that they were getting listings. So it was really hard to get things off market for like the last 12 months. Where now, more often than not, probably 60% of my stuff's off market. We don't really have pre-market, like they might have it on their books or something like that, but it's more either off market or it's on realestate.com.
Are you guys noticing any post-market stock, like with the market correction and rates going up? Are you noticing things are, just not selling?
They're really not selling if agents haven't priced them correctly, because I think a lot of people have this mentality, because it's been like it for 2 years, that they have to go in 50K, 100K of the asking. They don't even think, because how agents market here, it's a best offer over, say, 599. So people have this mentality that they have to offer that best offer over, where, if agents have priced it too high, it will just sit there because people are like, oh, I can't afford that. They don't even consider approaching them and offering them under the asking. So unless it's priced right, they are sitting around, yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, that seems like it's quite standard in other places that I see, where if they're not, the vendor or an agent aren't meeting the market, then it's just, not selling.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing at the moment is vendor expectation, especially if they still think, we're in this time where prices are really high. I think they've got higher expectations than what it's probably going to sell for, which can be really hard if they haven't had the right education by the agent.
Yeah, I think it's a hard pill to swallow. Like if you own a home that, you could have, let's say, got 1.5 last year and now you're looking at like 1.1. I think some vendors are just finding it hard to acknowledge and accept that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And, average days on market for us used to be no more than 7 days, where now it's probably like 3 to 6 weeks. So then some of my buyers are like, well, there's obviously something wrong with it if it's sitting there. And I was like, no, it's just because people have more time to think about it. They don't need to rush in.
What's roughly the average time it takes you, like when you sign on a new client, until you guys exchange?
Depending, investors can be a bit more quicker if I can get them a good return. So we might have an offering within a couple of weeks. Usual settlement times are about 30 days. Owner OC might be a little bit longer, might be up to like 3 weeks before we find something for them. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Okay, cool. Well, I've really enjoyed this chat. It's great to see you taking the reins in Tassie, and it just seems like the market just, I guess it's not only becoming more receptive to BAs, but it just seems like a new place where so many people from interstate are going to start obviously, transitioning like they are now. And you're going to be capitalizing on that, I think, which is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you very much. No, it's very exciting times. I think I definitely got in it at the right time. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, it feels like, when I started in Sydney in 2009, like, we weren't the first. There was a few people that were already established, but it's nice getting in there on the ground early and riding out that blue ocean. It's really special. Like, it really sets you up for the future. So I'm sure you're just going to keep going from strength to strength.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem. So where can people find you?
Either my website is buyersagentstasmania.com.au, and it's the same for Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, just Buyers Agents Tasmania.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm sure people can then, visit your socials and get a bit of a glimpse on the landscape and activities and what goes down in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, definitely. They can get some ideas for the next holiday maybe.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Sam. Nice to chat.
Thank you very much.